If you've ever written a comment on Reddit or a doc on GitHub, or heck, even a message in some chat apps, you've probably used Markdown. It's that super simple syntax that turns asterisks into italics or hashtags into big headings. But get this, it turns out this 20-year-old tool, a tool designed specifically for humans, has this incredible, kind of secret superpower in the age of AI. And we're going to dive into exactly how and why. Okay, so here's one of the biggest puzzles with large language models. How do you feed them structured info in a way they can actually reliably understand? I mean, when you give an AI a huge table of data and ask it a question, how can you be sure it's getting the right answer? And this isn't just some abstract academic problem, right? This affects everything from AI-powered research all the way down to how accurate your company's chatbot is. Now, you'd think, logically, that machine-focused formats like JSON or the good old CSV file would be the best at this, but a recent study showed something that was, well, pretty fascinating. As you can see right here, a specific version of Markdown, one using simple key-value pairs, didn't just do well, it significantly outperformed both. And that raises a huge question. Why? How is that possible? And that, right there, is the beautiful irony of this whole story. The top performer, the winner in this AI showdown, is a format whose entire reason for being was built around human readability, not machine parsing. To really get how this happened, we've got to go back to the very beginning. So let's rewind the clock to 2004. See, before we had all these simple content editors, writing for the web often meant you were stuck wrestling with all these clunky HTML tags. It was a total mess, and it was clear that a different kind of problem needed solving, a very human one. The story of Markdown really kicks off with the simple formatting tricks people were already using in plain text emails. Then, in 2004, John Gruber, with some help from the brilliant Aaron Swartz, formalized all of this into what we now know as Markdown. Its simplicity and, crucially, its readability just caused its popularity to explode. It quickly became the standard on places like GitHub and community sites like Reddit. And it all came down to this one single core philosophy from John Gruber himself. He said the raw text, the stuff you're actually typing, should be easy to read, even before it gets turned into a fancy web page. It shouldn't be cluttered with a bunch of code or formatting instructions. Simple. And you can see that philosophy in action right here. On the left, you've got this other markup language called ASCII-Doc. It's powerful, for sure, but it can look a little noisy in its raw form. And then on the right, you have the Markdown equivalent. See that? You can instantly understand the structure. For Markdown, readability was king. End of story. But you know how it goes. This incredible success, it actually created a whole new problem. For a while, Markdown's greatest strength, its simplicity, was also its greatest weakness. See, the thing is, Gruber's original specification wasn't a super strict rulebook. It was more like a friendly guide, which was great, but it left a lot of room for interpretation. So as dozens of different versions of Markdown started popping up all over the place, they all started to interpret those rules differently. And we're not talking about minor details here. Developers were left guessing on really fundamental questions, like how many spaces do I need for a sublist? Do I need a blank line before a title or not? Can a list item just be empty? A document that looked absolutely perfect on one website could look completely broken on another. It was chaos. So eventually, the community was like, okay, enough is enough. They realized that for Markdown to have any kind of stable future, they all needed to get on the same page. This Wild West period just had to end. And that's where Common Mark comes into the picture. A group of developers, folks like Jeff Atwood and John McFarland, they all got together to create it. It launched in 2014, and it was this incredibly detailed specification with a massive suite of tests. The goal was simple: create one single, unambiguous standard that everyone could build on top of. And the cool thing is, Common Mark didn't kill creativity, it actually supercharged it. By creating this solid, predictable foundation, it let people build really powerful variations, or dialects. The most famous, of course, is GitHub-flavored Markdown, GFM. It's what's called a strict superset of Common Mark, which just means it follows all the rules, but then adds some really useful extra features, like tables, task lists, and strike-through text. Okay, so that's the history lesson. And it's that very standardization that brings us right back to our original story, and to Markdown's totally unexpected second act in the world of AI. That hard work laid the groundwork for everything that came next. So let's just put the pieces together. We have this format that began with a simple philosophy of human readability, but was later reinforced and hardened into an unambiguous machine parsable standard.
So the big question remains, why does that specific combination make it so incredibly effective for talking to an LLM?
All right, let's look at those numbers one more time. The top dog, Markdown KV, stands for key value. So instead of a big table, each and every piece of information is explicitly labeled. Think name, Charlie, and age, 56. Now look down at the bottom of the chart. Formats like CSV, which force the model to remember which column is which, they performed the worst.
And developer Simon Willison really hit the nail on the head when he explained why. The real problem with these row-based formats is just ambiguity. When an AI is looking at, say, row 500 of a giant CSV file, it can really easily lose track of which column is which. It can mistakenly link a value to the wrong header from way, way back at the top of the file.
So here's the magic. The Markdown KV format just eliminates that confusion. By explicitly pairing every single value with its key, there is just no room for misinterpretation. For an AI, you see, readability isn't about looking pretty. It's about being unambiguous. It's all about removing any possible chance of making a mistake.
And that's just the perfect conclusion to this story, isn't it? The very design goal that made Markdown so simple and clear for us humans to read, that very same clarity is exactly what makes it so effective for a machine to understand. The quest to solve a human problem accidentally created the perfect solution for an artificial one.
And it kind of leaves you with this one last thought. In a world that just keeps getting more and more complex, we're discovering that our most advanced AIs, they perform best when we talk to them in the simplest, clearest way possible. Maybe, just maybe, there's a lesson in there for how we talk to each other too.